Section 1 of Dread Flame of Matonac by Henry Hasse. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Cinda J. M. Dread Flame of Matonac by Henry Hasse. Section 1. A flame of pure thought, green and unspeakably vile, thrust from its own supra-dimension into the solar warp, it found one whose malignance matched its own, and who would bargain with it. Against them, Ketrik, outlawed and alone. Ketrik came in from Perlac, came fast, using the frequency tuner all the way. Now his great bulk came forward in the control seat, his eyes fastened intently on the dark blue disk of Earth that loomed ahead. "Strange," he muttered. "Strange. No patrollers. I expected an escort at least, if not a challenge." But no one heard. Ketrik, as always, had come alone. The helio from Mark Travers, recorded on the sensitized receivers at Perlac, had been more than a summons and a plea. It had contained an undertone of urgency. Ketrik had left at once, making the trip from the newly discovered outer planet in record time, thanks to the secret power unit which the Earth Council still coveted. Ketrik thought of that now, as he neared Earth where he had not set foot for so long. He remembered the tedious negotiations between Earth and Perlac, designed to bring the latter planet into the Solar Federation, a status hardly equitable to the Perlac government due to Earth's high-handed demands. For Earth still claimed priority on Brownell's frequency tuner, despite the fact that he had been forced to flee with his invention to Perlac, and since then there had been an alarming exodus of Earth scientists to Perlac where they could work out their ideas unhampered. The Earth Council remained haughty, adamant. Only 6 months ago there had been a skirmish beyond Jupiter in which several Earth patrollers had gone to flaming destruction against the speedy Perlac ships. The Perlac incident was developing into open, bitter warfare. Venus remained wisely aloof, riding a crest of peace under the reign of Princess Aladania, and on Mars, Darvaho sat brooding in his ancient throne, silent and watchful. "Maybe I'm being a fool," Ketrik murmured now as he crossed the orbit of Earth's moon. "Mark Travers guaranteed me safe landing and full protection. Nevertheless..." Weary, but still cautious, he switched to the auxiliary rocket power, then went to work dismantling the frequency tuner. In a short time he had jumbled the unit into a confusion of its component parts and carefully hid it away. He trusted Mark Travers, but there were others. As he picked up the grav beam for his landing, he thought again of Mark. It would be good to see him again after 4 years. He wondered if the lad's status as member of council had changed him any. Even more, he wondered at Mark's urgent message. The city spread below, then the landing field. Ketrik berthed with practiced ease, stepped down from the lock. The guards closed in fast. There were dozens of them. Ketrik had only time to glimpse the black and silver insignia of the elite council guard, the drawn guns, the grim purpose on their faces. Even as he whirled back toward his ship, the deadly song of a heat beam sounded past his ear, so close he could feel the swirling scorch of it. Ketrik came erect and motionless. He turned slowly, brain wry with the thought that he'd come into a trap after all, but he smiled, a twisted smile which failed to erase the hard lines of his face. His eyes were a puzzle, gray and serene, but somehow mocking beneath the dark bangs tumbling across his forehead. The guards formed a watchful circle about this man whose deeds were renowned throughout the system. For a moment their captain hesitated. Then, squaring his shoulders, he stepped forward. His gun became intimate with Ketrik's wishbone. "George Ketrik, I arrest you by order of the Supreme Earth Council. You will come along peaceably or suffer the consequences." The man's voice was overly loud, arrogant, With a dramatic gesture, he removed Ketrik's gun, then whirled him into the hands of the guards. They marched toward a waiting tube car. Other guards were trying to keep back the crowd, passengers for the Venus Express who thronged the field. Ketrik's eyes were emotionless now, devoid of color. He said tonelessly, "Taking quite a chance, aren't you, Captain? I only counted 50 of your men." "We've heard too much about you, Ketrik, and we want you alive. That's why we didn't try to take you in space. I'm glad you're being sensible about this." Ketrik shrugged his towering shoulders as though to say, "Why not?" But his mind raced. So they wanted him alive. They were nearing the tube car now, and the crowd, eternally curious, was trying to press in. It was now or never. Ketrik stumbled. His elbow shot back, caught the captain in the stomach. With the same motion, he snatched the latter's heat gun and, bending low, lunged to the left. The crowd parted before his onrush. Women screamed at the sight of the gun he waved before him. Ketrik heard shouts and curses from the startled guard, but he knew they wouldn't fire into the crowd. A uniformed man loomed before him, swinging a gun fist up. Ketrik was quicker. The guard went down from a sledgehammer blow. Grinning joyously, Ketrik evaded 2 others. He twisted and turned through the crowd with some notion of gaining the tube car and escaping into the heart of the city. And it might have worked. Now a path was opening clear, but this time he really stumbled and lost his balance momentarily. It was enough to allow the guards to close in. Ketrik, twisted erect, felt clutching hands upon him and heard the bellowing voice of the captain. He swung out with his arms, felt men flung backward. He tried to bring up the heat gun. This time, someone else was quicker. A heavy weight crashed against Ketrik's head. A sun exploded into millions of fragments which dwindled away as he plunged forward into darkness. He regained his faculties quickly. His subconscious demanded it. This curious awareness in which Ketrik had trained himself had saved him from many a tight scrape. But now he did not open his eyes at once. He knew he was in the tube car, for he could feel the cushioned seat beneath him and the faint vibration of the gyro motors. Then he became aware of another fact. He was alone. This brought him to his feet, wide-eyed and alert. He felt the weight of his own gun again in his belt. He examined it, found it still loaded. Strange. Where were the guards? Why should they be sending him somewhere alone? A glance at the chrysite window revealed a flashing panorama of the city. He knew he was moving at terrific speed, probably on a special right-of-way. To attempt an escape now would be suicide. He shrugged, settled down in the seat. His capture had been well planned, but he failed to see what the council hoped to gain by it. Ketrik felt a surge of cold fury at this treachery, a treachery in which Mark Travers must have had a hand. Presently, a braking signal flashed green. The tiny car sighed, as though exhausted from its headlong route across the city. It came to a stop against the forward cushion of air, and the doors of Duraplan slid smoothly back. Hand near his gun, Ketrik emerged into a long, empty corridor of black and silver. Black marble walls reached sheerly up to curve away into a filigreed ceiling. Priceless tapestries adorned the walls, caught a hidden overhead glow, and shattered it into lances of silver radiance. Ketrik frowned, looking at these tapestries. Their design was interwoven with thousands of croix plumes, those priceless silvery plumes for which he'd risked his life many times among the wild peaks of Ganymede. Only the very elect could afford them. He knew now. He must be in Earth's council chambers. Again, he felt a tingling awareness, knew that unseen eyes were upon him. He straightened his shoulders and walked unhurriedly toward a massive door at the end of the corridor. As he neared it, there came a tiny click, and the door slid back. It was a large room, but startlingly bare. A huge table of Martian manganja wood with a dozen surrounding chairs occupied the center. The only other article was a magnificent Aethero Magnum with screen reaching nearly to the ceiling, an instrument powerful enough for communication with Venus, Mars, even the Callistian colonies. To Ketrik's surprise, only one member of council was present. This man had risen as Ketrik entered. Ketrik stared, and it took him fully a minute to recognize this man. It had been 4 years since he'd last seen him, out there at Perlac. But now Mark Travers seemed to have aged 20 years. Mark came slowly around the table, hand thrust out in greeting. Ketrik's voice was like a whiplash. "Nice going, Travers. I trusted you, so I came right into your little trap. What is it you want, the frequency tuner, or am I just plain under arrest?" Mark stopped in his tracks. A pained look swept across his features. Ketrik went on mercilessly. "And I expected a better reception than this. Where's the rest of the council? I'll save you time, though, and tell you that Perlac has ceased negotiating. We're prepared to fight for our independence and free enterprise in the system." "I know that, Ketrik. I'll continue to champion Perlac's cause against all odds here." Grim-faced, Mark began pacing the room. "As for the 11 council members, they don't even know you've arrived on Earth. I'm risking my position in council, perhaps my very life, by bringing an outsider into these chambers without a quorum present." Ketrik's mien underwent a change. "You mean I'm not under arrest?" Mark laughed. "Of course you're not. That little show at the spaceport was faked. Had to be. And," he smiled a little, "thanks for adding the touch of realism. Moreover, your spacer's in safe hands." "Well, son, congratulations." Ketrik grinned broadly. "You sure had me fooled. But what about the rest of the council? If they learn that I'm on Earth..." "By the time they do, it won't matter. You won't be here." Mark stopped his pacing, turned to the famed adventurer. "Ketrik, I sent for you because I need you desperately. Earth needs you. I have reason to believe that Earth is facing the greatest danger in its history." "Earth." The bronzed exile spoke the word quietly, but with a world of contempt. "Well then, the entire system, even Perlac. I believe it will strike first at Earth. In fact, may already have done so." "And this danger from what?" "Ketrik, you'll probably think me a fool, but I don't know. It's so damn vague, it's terrifying. I do have an accumulation of data that points to Mars. I want you to go there." "Mars? A second-rate power? Their race is dying out, and their science goes with it." Mark shook his head. "Don't underrate Darvajo. He's an old man now, but cunning. An opportunist. He's never forgotten how Princess Aladania of Venus, through her treaty with Earth, put an end to his dreams of conquest." "Yes, I remember it well." Ketrik was thoughtful. "But how could Darvajo make a play now against the power of Earth? Or, for that matter, Perlac?" Mark permitted himself a smile. He didn't miss the implication that Perlac, too, was fast becoming a power to be reckoned with. "I'll give you the facts," he said quietly, "and you can judge. About 2 years ago, Darvajo stopped all uranium shipments from Mars. That, in itself, is comparatively unimportant. What is important is the Earth Council. Now consider, Ketrik, I've been close to these men for 4 years. Very often it has seemed to me that where rudimentary logic should dictate a course of action, they incomprehensibly choose to follow another. So it was with this uranium embargo. They might easily have forced a showdown, but instead, they seemed satisfied with Darvajo's peculiar evasions. Of course, about this time, Earth's quarrel with Perlac was reaching a crisis, but even there, I noticed definite trends of irrational thinking on the part of the members. At our frequent sessions to discuss the Perlac question, they seemed to appreciate all the factors involved, even that we were fast losing our best scientific talent to Perlac. Yet their damned egotisms crept through, dictating to their reason. Ketrik, I swear to you that when they voted sending a fleet of patrollers out to Jupiter to prevent your men from landing there, I did everything in my power to prevent it. But again, my voice was 1 against 11. And believe me, the majority vote of council is final, irrevocable. I have reason to know that, Ketrik said. But Mark, I still fail to see this danger you spoke of. I'm getting to it. And this is the part that's frightening. About a month ago in my own home, I set up a secret cerebro scanner. Know what that is? Never heard of it. It's new and plenty dangerous in the wrong hands. Works on a ray principle, produces elaborate graphs of an individual's mental and emotional coordinates. Well, on a secret wavelength, I probed the minds of my fellow council members. Mark smiled. Yes, I'd probably receive sentence of death if they knew, but the end justifies the means. Ketrik, the resulting graphs revealed that the cerebro-thalamic coordinates of the council members do not vary in the slightest. They are the same down to 10 decimal points. Ketrik gestured helplessly. Is this important? Mark stared at him. Important? It's unprecedented. Much the same as finding 11 identical sets of fingerprints. But what is worse? The graphs show elements of it's hard to explain. Certainly not disloyalty, rather the opposite. An intense loyalty, but governed by unreason. Their minds seem directed along a single channel toward a definite end. And that is the utter humbling of Perlac. Nothing else seems to matter. Ketrik nodded. Then he asked the obvious question. Did you employ this scanner on yourself? To make the record complete, yes. Needless to say, this tenacity of purpose concerning Perlac is utterly missing from my own mental coordinates. How do you account for that? I can't. But this mental trend in the other seems to be induced. Now you begin to see the implications? Ketrik nodded slowly. Yes, son, and you're right. It even begins to scare me a little. Suppose Darvajo in some way has gained control of those 11 minds. Is that what you mean? But why Darvajo? There's one more item that completes the pattern and points to Mars. During the past year, as many as 4 of our spacers have disappeared on the Earth-Mars route. No trace has ever been found. However, about a month ago, a lifeboat from the missing Terra 3 was found drifting near the orbit of our moon. Aboard was one survivor, Dr. Kurt Ransom, the brilliant physicist and mathematician returning from a lecture tour on Mars. And could you learn nothing from him? No. Mark's voice was tragic. We learned nothing because his brilliant mind was gone. The doctors say it's doubtful he'll ever respond to treatment. He babbles incessantly, has the mind of a week-old infant. Ketrik was aghast. What has the council done? Nothing, of course. Mark laughed bitterly. They're preoccupied with Perlac. I've personally contacted Darvajo on the Ethro Magnum. He expresses regret and puzzlement, offers every aid in tracing the disappearing ships, but there's an undercurrent of evasion. As a desperate measure, I sent 2 secret operatives to Mars. Good. Ketrik nodded his approval. They get through all right? Yes, apparently just in time. Darvajo has thrown a close guard around the planet. Anyway, my operatives managed to set up a communications base in the wilds of the Kamari Range, half a day's flight from Turabak, capital of South Mars. I've contacted them twice. They report strange activities at Turabak, something in the nature of a vast scientific experiment. And another thing, Darvajo apparently has made a truce with the Rajeks. The Rajeks? Those Martian outlanders? Ketrik's face was dark with real concern. This news seemed to affect him more than anything Mark had said. We've never really learned much about those strange desert tribes, Mark went on, but it's impossible, Ketrik said. Those outlanders hate the upper Martians with a hatred beyond our understanding. Nothing would impel them to make a truce. Absolutely nothing. I know, for I once lived among them for 6 months. Ketrik was as near to being excited as was possible for him. Yes, Mark, I'll go to Mars. This really begins to interest me. End of section 1.